good morning and big welcome to my Sunday morning poem. What an extraordinary week we've just been through. Very, very strange to be hitting into lockdown again, and this is day 4, and I guess we're going to need to redouble our effort, grit, resolution, resilience again. Much tougher this time, I think. Partly because we know what it was like from last time and the weather doesn't help. But an opportunity once again, I guess, to see what innovation can come out of the complex criteria that we're living with right now. But of course, this week was overshadowed so much by the US election, which was gripping. I don't know about you, but I found it quite difficult to stop watching. It was utterly compulsive and addictive to see it. It was nail biting. And I'm absolutely over the moon that the Joe Biden, Kamala Harris ticket have now achieved that presidency and vice presidency. What an amazing achievement. And it felt very touch and go, didn't it, at various points during the week. I just think it's an absolute joy to have got rid of Donald Trump and his constant aggressive, angry, self-serving, megalomaniacal narcissism. Fantastic. In the midst of all of the coronavirus stuff, it was a real uplift to see that change, not only for the States, but obviously for the rest of the world. Coincidentally, last night I was invited to be on the monthly forum for writers and poets that's run by KOHOI community radio in Iowa, and run by Anna a Banana, who hosts the show and Heart to Heart Messages. We linked up over Love Letters to the World, and it's been great to be invited to sit with people and chat and share favourite poetry and just talk about the power of poetry, especially now. I think with so much going on, it's a great place to seek refuge. My laptop's decided to run out of battery, so hold on a second. So today's poem, there was so much going on this week. It was like, well, a bit of a struggle to think, well, what poem shall I share today? And so one I've chosen feels to me to be fitting, and the conversations that we were having live last night on the radio program were very much about the intersection between poetry and politics. So I leaned back into the last century to find the American poet MURIEL RUKEYSER. And she was a poet who was very instrumental again in the civil rights movement, and she was an activist and feminist in the 60s and 70s, and she influenced a lot of young poets at that time, like Alice Walker and Anne Sexton, Adrienne Rich. So there's a quote here about her from the Gramercy Review, which says, Muriel is radical politically, but she writes as a poet, not a propagandist. When you hold a book of hers in your hand, you hold a living thing. She was described as embodying the heroic, the bardic, the romantic. Poets who are bardic take on mankind and the whole cosmos as the field of their utterance, try to carry whole nations forward through the urgency of their message. And I think that intersection between poetry and politics is probably, it's just so potent, and I've found it so potent over the last year, quite particularly in reaching into poems to soothe the troubled mind, I guess. So this one, which resonates for me quite profoundly, I think, in relationship to what we've just gone through this week, is called Poem. I lived in the first century of world wars. So Muriel was born in 1913 and died in 1980. So I'm not entirely sure exactly when this poem was written, but it would have been probably late 70s, well, mid 70s, I think. And it goes like this. I lived in the first century of world wars. Most mornings I would be more or less insane. The newspapers would arrive with their careless stories. The news would pour out of various devices, interrupted by attempts to sell products to the unseen. I would call my friends on other devices. They would be more or less mad for similar reasons. Slowly, I would get to pen and paper, make my poems for others unseen and unborn. In the day, I would be reminded of those men and women, brave, setting up signals across vast distances, considering a nameless way of living, of almost unimagined values. As the lights darkened, as the lights of night brightened, we would try to imagine them, try to find each other, to construct peace, to make love, to reconcile waking with sleeping, ourselves with each other, ourselves with ourselves. We would try by any means to reach the limits of ourselves, to reach beyond ourselves, to let go the means, to wake. I lived in the first century of these wars. So, yep, I chose that poem in part also, obviously, because it's Remembrance Sunday and she is reflecting on the horrendous lives that soldiers lived, that people experienced during the both world wars, but also a comment on the shift in the world politic now as we move forward. So have a good week, everyone, and if you're in the UK, take great care of yourselves during this lockdown, and let's hope that the COVID challenge will also become more managed and focused in the US as well. So have a good day, everyone, and a good week. Take care. Bye.